Melissa Drew, thank you very much for coming on to the Data Strategy Show. It's great to see you. And you're on for 66 questions. Melissa, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, a bit nervous because I don't know what the 66 questions are. I did look at some of your other recordings and you were
did?
good. You didn't hint on what the 66 questions are.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, yes, that's one of the good things that we do on this. And otherwise, it would all be quite contrived, wouldn't it? You
Yes.
know, yes.
Yeah.
Right. So, Melissa, we're going to go straight into it. And here we go with question number one. What's your wake up ritual?
Get dressed and find coffee.
Perfect. What would you say is your biggest strength?
I have a brilliant way of learning information that I've never learned before, absorbing it, and then being able to come back very quickly and present it in an easy way that people can understand it.
That's a very good talent to have. What's the biggest learning experience you've had?
Kids.
No,
Really,
I can attest to that one.
I didn't play with Barbie dolls. I didn't,
Sure.
Yeah. So kids was a huge learning curve.
Oh, yes. Actually, I think you're the first one who said that, quite interestingly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to broaden the horizons of the scope of these 66 questions. Yes.
And, are there any hobbies you will never give up?
Writing.
Oh, okay. Good one.
I really have found that I like writing. I like words. The rest of it, I have twins. So hobbies, sleep is a really good hobby.
That's a very good hobby when you have twins. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do they play tricks on you? Do they play tricks on you? Are they identical?
No, no, they're fraternal twins. Yeah, fraternal twins.
That's not that's better anyway.
Yes.
But so what makes you angry?
My level of anger is different when I'm dealing with my children versus dealing with other people.
Yes.
Yes. I am still with my professional world. I am still surprised, and it does make me angry when I'm listening to a call with leadership and executives, and a woman will explain something, and then a man will, a male will jump in and literally re-explain everything that she just said.
Right.
And I'm like, what? I'm just surprised that in 2022 we still find these little things. I don't call them microaggressions, but that makes me angry.
Yeah, yes. I think it's called mansplaining, isn't it?
Mansplaining.
Mansplaining. Okay. I think that's what they call it here, yeah. At least what I've read so far. But yes, any first memories of life?
Four. My earliest memory is the age of 4. Yeah. I'm in like a forest setting. Later on, I found out that we were visiting family and this was their backyard. But
amazing.
From a 4-year-old's perspective, it felt like a really big forest.
Big forest, I bet. What are you most excited about these days?
Oh, wow. What am I most excited about? Certainly not finding random kittens in my backyard.
No, your kids are going to come home with some more tonight.
I hope not. No, for some reason I find that one really tough to just.
No problem.
What's my most exciting thing? Yeah.
Let's just shimmy on then. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
You're a really good speaker.
Excellent. What's a cause that is important to you apart from kittens?
My cause over the last 2 years is bringing a voice to women in technology and data. So I have a podcast specifically focused on talking to women globally and letting them share their insights and intellect.
Great pitch. What's the name of the podcast?
Oh, it's called The Impact of AI and Data.
Wonderful. The Impact of AI and data. Awesome. Okay, I'll look it up as well. What makes you smile the most? I love it when
ask me this question. When my husband gets silly.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very good. I think, yeah, it's a good one. Do you have a secret talent?
secret talent. I
Something that nobody knows.
well, I have a few.
Oh,
But so
okay.
that's why I was trying to figure out. So
Yeah.
I'm halfway decent photographer.
Okay.
I learned, focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be an assistant tennis pro.
Oh,
So
very
I
cool.
play tennis fairly well.
So do I. So was I. Yeah.
I was a goalie
I
for soccer
for
and
soccer.
at one
Brilliant.
point. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So yeah, there's a few little secret things in there. Yep.
Awesome. Well, all of those three things that you've just mentioned are exactly the same as me.
No way.
Yeah, exactly the same. I was the head of my photography club at school.
Okay.
I was a semi-pro tennis player,
Okay.
and I was a goalkeeper to begin with in football. So
Fantastic.
isn't that strange, eh?
Yeah.
If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
I'd be a writer full time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What are the three things you can't live without?
Well, I'm coming to realize sugar.
Okay.
because I'm slowly trying to wean myself off sugar, and I'm finding it a lot more difficult than I thought.
It is very, very difficult. Yeah.
I'm not a very materialistic person, so it's really just having people, just having people around to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah. And the final one?
What was the final question?
The three things you can't live without. You
Oh,
said
there's
two.
three. Ooh. Okay. Sugar, people to talk to, and I don't really,
Okay, no problem.
I'm not that, yeah.
So listen, you're a writer, but are you a reader as well? And if you are a reader, what fictional character would you want to be?
I do read, but I read.
Don't tell me you read technical papers.
No. Although someone did send me something on AI and neuroscience, so I thought I might try to figure out how to read that one.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there was a book where the lead female was named Ayla, Ayla. And she lived in a time long ago when things were much simpler. She rode horses all the time.
Yep.
I thought that was fantastic.
Fantastic.
I think it was called The Valley of the Horses.
Oh,
it's
brilliant.
back in the caveman sort of transition from caveman to technology. Yeah.
Brilliant. What's the last show you binge watched?
Last night. Something new. It's called SkyMed. I've never seen
heard
it before. It's nurses in Alaska. I've been doing a lot more watching things in Alaska. And then this show popped up on my streaming device, and it's like, oh, I'll check it out. Next thing I know, I'm 2 hours in and I've already watched all season 1.
You're hooked.
I just thought it was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the most adventurous thing you've done in your life?
A long time ago, I lived in Australia for a year as a part of my work with Carney. And the most adventurous thing I did was meet up with a group of girls, and we went out into the Blue Mountains, and it was a 3-day hike.
Oh, wow.
Meaning that I had, true camping. And the 4 of us were really important because we each had different things. One had the tent, one had the cooking utensils, one had all the food. So we all had to really work together and stay together. But I had never truly camped. And then on top of that, you had to get to the other end of you had to get through the 3 days because that's where the car was.
Right.
So you couldn't go backwards.
You couldn't. Well, forward is always best, I think.
Right.
How would you define yourself in 3 words?
Dynamic. Intense. Silly.
Okay, I like that. Is there anything that is currently inspiring you in the data world right now?
I've been in data since 1997.
Wow.
Data was my master's. It was part of my master's degree. It was what I, focused on. My presentation for data was, we have so much data in the real world that we don't really have a way to store it and retrieve it. And for the longest time, it would take 6 minutes just to run a report.
Oh, yeah.
And I never really saw any major changes until probably about 3 to 4 years ago when we had AI technologies, which is why I blend the two together.
Yeah.
And data now I mean, I'm really excited about, I don't sound like it, but I'm really excited about data because data has always been there, and it's been the underlying factor. It's the root cause of everything. It's what
Yes,
you use to make decisions. I
absolutely.
mean, yeah, there's marketing and there's sales and all these things that are layers on top of it, but everything foundational starts with data. But we could never do anything with it. It was
Sure.
like this huge, rich ocean out there that we didn't have the right boat, to navigate. And with the AI technologies, we're like harnessing this power that we never knew existed, or we knew, we just could never touch it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And we
yeah,
can,
I
yeah,
love it.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Tell me, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I've actually received quite a lot.
Just
The
give me one.
earliest piece of advice was, remember to take a day off.
Oh,
Remember to
yes.
step back and give yourself time to think.
Absolutely.
I have found, I'm really glad that I learned that really, really early in my career.
Yeah.
The second piece of advice, which you didn't ask for, but I'll tell you
You
anyway.
give it to me anyway. It's good.
Yeah, the second piece of advice was, see, now I just forgot it.
You've forgotten it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll come back.
It was a really
it.
good one too.
Oh, you'll remember it. Do you remember the time when your career completely changed?
My career has changed often.
Oh.
That was my second piece of advice. I'll fold it in here, was that I have to be adaptable.
Right. Because
I have
things
to
do
learn
change, right?
constantly, so I've always been in procurement supply chain, but at first it was strategy, and then I became really good at that. And then there was procurement technology. So I had to, blend that in, and then, expertise in diversity and expertise in supplier management. And so everything I've done, there's been this core, but the piece of advice I got was, you need to constantly self-reflect.
Yes.
And you need to continuously adapt and add new skills to your core.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very, very sage advice there. What makes you feel accomplished?
That's a really good philosophical question. I thought I was accomplished when I was 28 and I got my dream job at Carney.
Yep.
And then once I got it, it's okay, well, now what? And
Yeah,
you have to come up with another
exactly.
dream, and then you come up with another dream.
Yeah.
So for me, being accomplished has, that definition changes throughout my career, throughout my life.
Of course it does, with your maturity and what happens in your life. Yeah, it's an interesting one, actually. So
I don't
what
think
is it
we have
then?
time to answer that question. I think
Okay,
that
well,
was my way of saying that's a really good
that's a really
philosophical
good question.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could discuss that offline.
Yeah.
What 3 words describe living in the USA right now?
Ooh, bipolar.
Okay.
Because you're in the UK, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Very similar, I think.
Bipolar.
Yeah.
Politically intense. Uncertainty.
Okay. Very good. Now, I think I know this. Optimist or pessimist?
I'm an optimist.
What's heavily played on your music playlist right now?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I like Enya.
Okay. Yep.
I'd say probably I have more Enya
Than anything.
else, because it's the perfect music that you can read, you can work against. It's like really good background music, but then if you need it to keep yourself mentally calm,
stable,
it's there too. Yes.
True.
And it's also one of the few things that if you're sitting at a client site and it's after 5 o'clock and you want to listen to music, it's always approved.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
You mean thrash metal isn't approved?
No, it's not. You would think, Yeah.
After 5, anything goes. But anyway, what 3 things are at the top of your bucket list, if you have one?
To get through cancer successfully and to not have it return.
Yep.
To a more philosophical side, to really make sure my kids are set up for success as 2 girls going into this future.
Yes.
And then the third one is personal. There's so many places I want to see.
Yeah.
And so many experiences. Like, I would say the third thing on my bucket list is a very long list of experiences.
Perfect. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Dark
What
chocolate,
dark
specifically dark
chocolate?
chocolate.
And what percentage does it have to be? I asked this because somebody gave me a really, really high percentage the other day.
Oh, no, I'm good. I used to like milk chocolate when I was younger, and then as I got older, I realized, wow, I really like dark chocolate better. I'm actually good with the 60% dark chocolate. As you go higher,
Yes. It
it's
gets more
interesting.
bitter, right?
I've yes, yes. As
Yeah.
you go higher, it's more bitter, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting. You know, they have these flight. You know, we talk about the flight of alcohol, flight of beer. So you just get your flight of dark chocolate and just go to town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody, I mean, some people really love it with coffee. So, you know, could be a nice dark chocolate with coffee goes well, apparently.
I like cinnamon muffins.
Oh, I had one not yesterday, the day before. Lovely.
Cinnamon.
Oh,
I love cinnamon. Yep.
yes, yes, so do I. What book did you most recently finish?
Oh my gosh. That's a bit of a challenge because almost all of my friends on LinkedIn have books this year. And
Aha.
so I get them and then
And
I
you
just
read
start
those.
reading them. Yeah. So I've read The Classification Guru. I've
Yep.
read Dr. Eloise Epstein. I'm reading a book right now. It's a leadership book. Oh, I just lost the name, but
No problem.
yeah, everybody. I mean, I've got like a whole drawer in
Yeah.
my desk
Yeah.
with all of my friends' books that I've just been reading periodically as soon as they publish.
Fantastic. Well, you are a very loyal friend.
Yes.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm one of those people where I just want to live forever because I want to see what the future is like.
Yes, yes.
So going back in time, I I think I think if I went back in time, the advice I would give myself is recognizing that if you get laid off from a company due to 9/11 or due to COVID, um, in a particular time, it's always good. It's okay to go back.
Yes.
And I guess I never, for some reason, I never recognized that. And then the other piece would be whatever you think you are, or whatever you think you are at this point in time.
Yep.
Remember that you're 5 times much more.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
I think early on,
Yeah.
I thought a little bit lower of my capabilities. And so my idea of what I was going to go for, was maybe, at the B plus bar or
So
the A
push
minus bar.
yourself. Push yourself
Yeah.
higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That push.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a very confident individual, and I know that whatever I put in front of me, I can learn it very quickly. But I think if I had strived higher, raised my own personal bar higher,
Sure.
I think there would have been things I could have achieved even more.
Fantastic. Excellent. If you could switch lives with one person for a day, who would it be?
Ooh, oh my God. Today is September 26th. And it just so happens that today is the test of the DART mission. Are you familiar with that?
No. What's
It
that?
is. So it's our beginnings of Earth's planetary defense.
Okay.
The guy in charge, I think would be fantastic to be him for a day
Oh,
today.
yeah.
For today. So the test today, they launched it a year ago, and they are going to take a small ship about the size of a golf cart, and they're going to smash it into an asteroid about the size of one of our pyramids in Egypt.
Right.
And then they're going to monitor and measure through data how much they were able to push the asteroid in a different direction.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So the idea is that if we ever do find an asteroid that's coming in our direction, we already have the test proven. And it's not, let's just go blow it up with a nuclear weapon like we have in the movies. And it's not, oh, we didn't know about it, and now we only have 18 days.
Yes.
They're looking at long term, being able to find things, decades and even centuries. So today,
is
I would
the
like
first
to be
one.
him.
That
I
is,
would like to be him today.
That sounds amazing. If you had to change something in the world right now, what would it be?
I would really like and this is probably because I'm more of a future, person. I look
Mm-hmm.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to see what what we could accomplish if the countries work together. Like
Right.
if we
Yeah,
looked at
yeah.
if we stood back and looked at all the different countries and said, what are your strengths and what are your
Mm-hmm.
weaknesses?
Mm-hmm.
Not just areas of improvement, but
Sure.
and just start with agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we just start with agriculture, the concept of a global economy, we don't have at the moment. We
Sure.
say it's a
Yeah.
global economy,
True.
but it's
True.
really not.
Yeah.
So I would love to see what we truly could accomplish
Mm.
if
Fantastic.
we
I love
looked
that.
at it from that
Yeah,
perspective.
I love that answer. Um, if you could resurrect one person from history and put them in the world today, who would it be?
Oh, these are like where do you come up with these questions? Because this is me stalling at the moment.
That's
Yeah.
fine. You can think about it. It's no problem. I can sing if you want.
Oh God, you're so funny. That's great. Resurrect just one.
Well,
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
somebody that, comes to mind. Could be anybody,
Well,
really.
Newton came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the other person that comes to mind as well is Van Gogh.
Why is that? That's interesting.
I I always thought that Van Gogh's genius,
Yes.
and I'll say genius, was
Yes.
completely misunderstood at the time,
Mm-hmm. True.
but it still
True.
wasn't really recognized for a long time. But
Yeah,
yet there
after
were
his
other
death, yeah.
things, yeah, there are other
Mm,
things that he did during his life, but
mm,
he was just either misinterpreted or people thought he just wasn't, following the social norms.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think having a really interesting day to just talk
Mm-hmm.
and just understand not just life back then, but understand how I don't think we fully got everything we could from him.
No, true, true. And I think he was a troubled soul that had felt like he had a lot of weight on his
Yes.
shoulders,
Yes.
and couldn't get that out. But yeah, yeah, interesting, interesting. I think we could speak about that a little bit more, but
Yeah.
we need to carry on.
Yes.
What's the one thing you wish you knew at the age of 19?
At the age of 19, I probably would have reminded myself, don't settle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Mm-hmm.
settle for anything.
Anything, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's I did because I did make some good decisions
Mm,
when I was 19,
mm,
but I also
mm.
made some poor ones.
Well, you're just
And
human. We all
yeah,
do.
maybe I should have told myself that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Gosh, 19. I was trying to think of what
Yeah.
I was doing when I was 19. Oh, so okay. So at 19, I probably would have told myself to stay with tennis
Mm-hmm.
more, to keep
Mm-hmm.
going with
Yep.
tennis.
Yep.
Um,
And persevere.
yeah,
Great game. Love the game.
at 19, I really didn't have much of direction. I
Mm,
didn't know what I wanted
mm,
to do.
mm-hmm.
Maybe I should have given myself advice to sit down and think about it for a while.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Looking back, you can give yourself lots and lots of different ways to think about it, can't you? Do you have a favorite exercise?
At the moment, it's walking.
Okay. That's a good
Yeah.
exercise. Keeps you healthy.
Mm-hmm.
If you were not living in the US, where would you be living?
Oh my gosh. I think that's more difficult than any question you have just asked me. I mean, Australia is fantastic.
Yeah.
London's great, but outside of London,
Right.
I think my problem is there's so many different places I want to visit.
Yes. Yes.
I like Europe because
Uh-huh.
Europe is so close and there's so many,
There. Yeah. It is.
like when I was in France, I could just drive over to Belgium. I could drive
Mm-hmm.
over to the Netherlands. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
just,
It's so close. Yeah.
actually right now, based on
Mhm.
my experiences, the southern part of the Netherlands.
Okay. Okay.
Maastricht, I think is what it's called.
Oh, Maastricht. Yes.
Maastricht, yes,
Yes.
Maastricht, yes.
Yes. I've been there.
Wonderful village, wonderful people. It's got that perfect blend of old world, but
Yes.
you're still living in modern times.
I was going to say it's very quaint.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind living there. Yeah.
Perfect. If you could offer one piece of advice to up and coming data leaders, what would it be?
don't believe that we have gotten it all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the next generation will come in and say, but you guys have been doing this for 50 years. So
Yeah.
what's left?
Yeah.
I would say absolutely don't think that we've got it all figured out. Don't
Yeah.
think that we haven't answered all the questions, because we don't know all the questions to ask yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. What was the best lesson your parents ever taught you?
To and this is a female growing up in the 90s and in
Mm-hmm.
the late 2000s. Don't believe that you have to depend on someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everything that I guess was taught to me between both my parents was you can achieve what you want on your goals. If
Yes.
you find someone that you can partner with,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
But don't feel that your identity needs to have someone else there. Like, you can
Sure.
take care of yourself.
Self.
We'll
Yeah.
help you with the skills to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been very valuable, because the person I ended up with is someone that I work really well together with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
need him.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully he won't be listening
Yeah,
to
I was about
this.
to say, did I just say that? Shit. Oops. But if you walk into that scenario, or any scenario, then I think the relationships that you have are much more engaging, much more connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's good and very wise.
So let me rephrase that. I don't need him, but I want him,
You
just in
want
case
to?
he does
Okay.
listen.
No, I'll make sure he doesn't listen to it. What's your favorite food?
Oh my gosh, I love food. I think that's been, oh gosh, I love food. I love flavor.
Yeah.
I love textures in
Yep.
food.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I've always liked mashed potatoes, like garlic cheese mashed
Oh,
potatoes. Oh
garlic
my
cheese.
gosh, yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
See,
good.
I like potato. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just like food. Last night I did a vegetable bake
Mm-hmm.
where I, cooked up a whole bunch of vegetables,
Yep.
put in some spices and olive
Mm-hmm.
oil, baked
Mm-hmm.
them,
Mm-hmm.
and then added in some Parmesan cheese and some tomatoes, and then took some
Oh,
sourdough and crumpled
yes.
them up into
Oh,
breadcrumbs.
oh, fantastic.
Oh my gosh. I loved it so much I had to make a whole second batch.
Good for you. Hopefully you shared it with the rest of the family.
I did. Well, that's why I had to make the second batch. Yes.
How do you relax?
I wait until everyone is in bed and it's quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my
Good.
time.
Good. Very nice. And do you have a favorite podcast?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Samir Sharma's
Oh
podcast.
God, do you listen to that? Oh dear.
I have, yes. To try to understand what the 66 questions were going to know. I purposely did not listen so that I would come in untainted.
Fresh. Good.
Fresh.
That's the way it should be. What's a movie that made you cry?
Oh my gosh, it made me cry.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there was this I don't remember the name of it, but I was really shocked because I didn't even watch it in English. I was working in France in 2019.
Oh, okay.
And I'm there on the weekend, and I was like, oh geez, what am I gonna do? Yeah. So there's this movie, and it's this it was the woman that played in Game of Thrones, the blonde girl. She was Daenerys.
I
forgot her name,
I haven't watched Game of Thrones, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so it was Emily Clark. It was Emily Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a young girl, and she was taking care of this guy who had some disabilities.
Right.
And she was just, smart and direct. And in the end, he died.
Yes, I think I remember.
After they built this really close relationship.
Yes. Yes.
And he died. And again, I'm watching this whole thing in French, and I cried at the end.
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh, one, I can't believe I cried at a movie.
Yeah.
And two, I can't believe I cried when all I couldn't even figure out what they were saying half the time,
Well, I think they're good actors then.
Yes. Yes.
Who would you say is your biggest inspiration?
I'm actually going to say one of my children, and I need to explain why, because I'm I look back
Mm-hmm.
at, lessons learned
Mm-hmm.
and for improvements, and I look forward
Mm-hmm.
into the future and try to be visionary and what questions have we
Yeah.
not asked.
Yeah.
I have never known anybody in my career and all my travels who
Mm-hmm.
lives solely in the present
Mm-hmm.
until I met my daughter.
Yep.
And she is constantly happy all the time. And I say
Wonderful.
that with a little bit of disdain. And one day I walked up to her just perplexed, like she's early in the morning. She's happy like all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I was like, Emma, why are you happy
Yeah.
all the time?
Mm.
And with no hesitation, she said, if I'm not happy, how can I be happy about everything else?
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
wow, how old are you again? Like
Yeah. Yeah. And
it was
how
like,
old is she?
oh, she's 12 now.
Oh,
When I asked her this,
fantastic.
she was 10. And I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned
Wonderful.
my whole life
Mm-hmm.
was
That
through a
is
10-year-old
beautiful.
daughter. Yeah.
Really cool. Um, what I know you've got a virtual window behind you, but what can you actually see from your window if you can if you got one?
Um, Several maple trees, sugar maple
Mm,
trees that we
lovely.
tap for
Yeah.
maple every
Oh,
year. I taught my
wonderful.
kids how to make their own maple syrup.
Amazing pancakes then. Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I live in a 1950s house commissioned
Wow.
by a mid-century architecture,
Uh-huh.
and it has stone walls
Oh.
that are, so there's 4 stone walls that come into the center of the house, and that
Mm-hmm.
forms the foundation. So what you don't see is this beautiful stone wall
Yeah.
that leads from the inside of my house
Mm-hmm.
to the outside of my house
Oh,
with
fantastic.
wall, ground to ceiling windows.
Oh, really? Oh, beautiful. That is stunning.
That is what mid-century is all about.
Ah,
Is
yes. And who was the architect?
I don't know.
No?
My husband
Okay.
says he found some paperwork, but I'm not a mid-century architect
Mm-hmm.
Veneciato, so I,
Yes, you didn't know.
even if I
Okay.
could remember his name, I wouldn't recognize it.
All right. Well, maybe you might be sitting on a gold mine. You never know. Um, do you still have something from your childhood that you've preserved?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask that. My mother just brought back my baby pillow.
Oh, wow.
The little pillow that sat in, your crib. I
Yeah.
guess, it was kind of what people did. You got baby blankets and baby pillows, and
Yes. Yes.
she gave me the pillow and was like, wow, this is a little tiny thing.
Yes.
But I got a new cover for it.
Ah,
And now
okay.
it's on my bed.
So it hasn't got your smell anymore from a child from when you were a child.
Probably not.
No, not
No.
anymore.
Yeah.
Ah, that would have
Yeah.
been good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I've never thought of that either. So.
Mm. What's a superpower you wish you had?
Um, there's pros and cons to every superpower.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that recently. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see the future, but
Yeah.
then maybe I don't want
You
to see the
don't.
future
Yeah.
because then I
Yeah.
would see things that I don't want to see.
Yeah.
Invisibility doesn't really do anything for me. It's
No.
not in my job description, so that's
No.
not cool. Actually, teleportation is my
Oh,
superpower.
nice. I like that one.
I only want it so that so that I can take my kids on vacation wherever I want.
Without
And
having to get on an
seriously,
aircraft. Quickly, children. Boom. There we
yes,
are.
if that was my if I had a superpower, it would be teleportation.
Ah, I like that. That's really cool, actually. No one else has. I don't think anybody has actually said teleportation. I'm going to have to analyze every single response and see what's happened. What's something you don't want to be doing in 10 years?
I'm going to preface that with this answer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind working.
Mm-hmm.
I like working. I like
Mm-hmm.
making a difference and making
Yep.
an impact.
Mm-hmm.
In 10 years from now, I don't want to feel like I have to work.
Yes, yes.
So
You have the independence
yes,
that you don't need to. Yep.
I mean, there's tons of things I want to do, but I'm always going to be somehow engaged in my area of expertise.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I don't want to
absolutely.
feel like I have to do it because
Yeah.
I see my parents.
Mm.
There was never pensions or 401ks or
Of course.
thrift savings plans
Yeah.
or they're
Yeah.
all primarily relying on Social Security.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's this philosophy that my dad retired at 55,
Mm-hmm.
really young, but he'd been in the UPS for 25 years, which is
Okay.
huge.
Yeah.
But at 55, that's young.
No, that
And
is very young. Yeah.
prices went up and his
Yeah.
pension didn't, stay the
Didn't cover
same.
stuff. Yeah.
You can't get Social Security until you're 62. So,
Oh, I see. Wow.
mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
my
So
goodness.
he felt like he had to go back to work. And my
I see.
mother,
Yeah.
she's still working, and
Wow.
she's 72 and she's still
Good
working.
for her. I mean,
Yeah.
when I say good for her, is that something she still wants to do, or something she has to do?
She's a traveling nurse.
Ah, okay.
So she has to do it at least
Yes.
a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
she's at least not doing it 100% of the year. She does it,
Right.
6 months out of the year.
Yeah, but that's good
Mhm.
purpose there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, which movie makes you laugh the hardest?
Oh, see, I watch a lot of sci-fi.
Do you?
I'm a
Red
huge
Dwarf. Red
sci-fi
Dwarf.
fan.
Did that ever make you laugh? Did you ever watch that?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
Like,
you need to watch it then. Red
okay.
Dwarf. Yeah.
Like I've watched like all the Star Trek spin-offs, the
Yep.
Babylon 5 series.
Uh,
Um, I'm watching, and it's funny you should mention this. I'm watching the Star Trek. So here in the States,
mm-hmm.
the TV shows like CBS and NBC,
Yes.
they'll have really fantastic shows, but they won't put them on cable. They'll stream them so that you have to
Okay.
pay,
Yes.
$5 a month.
Yeah, yeah.
All the Star Trek shows, Discovery, they're now streaming. So I'm like, well, I watch everything.
So you're rewatching them?
No, these are all new.
Oh, these are all
shows.
new ones.
These are all new.
Oh, new
Yeah.
Star Treks. I haven't.
New Star Trek.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, they did Picard and things like that, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
Picard, and
Yep,
then there's
yep.
Star Trek Discovery.
Discovery. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they're
Yep.
now in 900 years in the future.
Oh, are they? I think
Yep.
I watched Discovery, but I think I watched the first season. I didn't watch any more after that.
Yeah,
Maybe I
well,
should.
first season they're in present
Yeah.
time, and then they get pushed
Yes.
forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's another one that just came out, which is Christopher Pike. It's kind of all the prequel.
Okay.
But, yeah, when James T. Kirk was just in his captain's chair. So yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, I'd have to. Okay, they don't make you laugh, but at
They
least
don't make me
maybe
laugh.
no.
No,
But they make you.
I don't watch any. It's funny you should mention that. I really don't watch anything that makes me laugh. I mean,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
next time maybe I'll send you
I'm
some.
gonna start looking for this though. Maybe I should laugh more.
I'll send you some suggestions.
Okay.
If you could teach one subject in school, what would it be?
I actually would teach college. I wouldn't teach high school
Yeah.
or middle
Yeah.
school.
Yep.
I would teach college. I really would like to teach transformation,
Okay.
business and digital
Yeah.
transformation,
Yeah.
because, well, one, I haven't seen that at all,
Mhm.
but there is
Mhm.
so much that if you, take that down, like,
And if
there's,
you knew
yeah,
that,
you
yeah.
could have a whole course on data and data strategy.
Of course you could. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
transformation
absolutely.
is a little bit different. It's how do you take
Mm.
all of these components? So you learn all the components, and then the last half of the year, it's how do you take these components and pull them together?
Yeah.
And then what's the difference between doing the components individually versus now what can you achieve when you pull all these together?
Very good. What's a skill you're currently working on mastering?
Interviewing.
Okay.
For the podcast.
Yeah.
I am working on a lot.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
How are you doing with that?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I find I'm glad I did I've never done a podcast before.
Yeah,
I didn't. It was truly out of my comfort zone.
Good.
But I felt the purpose was true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have more respect for any podcast host.
It's a tough job.
Especially ones that have lasted more than 3-4 years that are still around. That's a level of consistency and energy that it's amazing.
It can be wearing at times, and you really feel like, oh, do I have to do another one? But then suddenly, you renew, and like you said, you remember your purpose, and then you pull it out the hat, and you think, that was actually quite cool.
And then you get energized by the people you talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always the way. Yeah, so wonderful. What 3 words best describe your leadership style?
Integrity. it's not really 3 words, but I'm an advocate for the individual success, what they need to be
Yeah,
successful.
sure.
I'm an advocate for open honesty and transparency.
Very good. Very good.
Mhm.
What are currently your top 3 data challenges, or your clients' top 3 data challenges? What would you say is top of their mind or top of your mind?
The biggest one happens to be the architecture and the infrastructure around it. It's pulling the data from multiple areas of the organization, and sometimes forgetting that certain areas need to be pulled in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that the biggest challenge is probably the first one is the infrastructure. And then the second one is, how do we get it all together in a way that we can then do something with it?
Yes.
Because all the data systems all have different formats and et cetera. And then the third one, and then sometimes I think the third one's even the hardest, is okay, now what? Now that we finally have gotten here,
what are we going to do with it? Yeah. What's something that recently moved you? Maybe it's the kittens.
I was just thinking about the kittens. God, it's funny you should mention that. So to put some clarification on this, 3 weeks ago, my kids found a kitten, 6 weeks old, in the woodpile. And just 2 nights ago, my kids and my husband found another kitten, 5 weeks old, truly malnourished.
Wow.
I think, honestly, I think what moved me the most was my husband. We've always debated about the one cat we have.
Right.
And here he is, just opening his arms to these kittens and letting the kids really get engaged and help foster them. I would say my husband surprises me all the time.
That's cool. Good. Yeah. That makes up for the last time. The last question. Yeah. What's the one thing you had to learn the hard way?
God, everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wow.
And in some cases, I'm glad I did, because I'm better for it. And in some cases, I'm like, crap, why didn't I have someone like me?
Yeah.
Who could have mentored me?
Yeah.
Case in point, I mentor women and men all the time, and they're able to get where I am in 10 years.
Much quicker,
which is great. I mean, that's what it should be.
Yes.
But I didn't have anybody to do that. So yeah, I mean, there are things that I wish everything.
I absolutely, that resonates with me so much, because I was thinking about that the other night.
Three jobs to pay for school and college. Everything. Everything.
How do you handle pressure in your career?
I am actually good with the pressure in my career. I've been in it since, like I said, 1995. I've been traveling full time since 1997 until we got to COVID. I actually have more difficult stress with home stress.
Right. Yeah.
I find that very interesting. I've learned how I've absorbed the stress in my work. I get it. It fuels me. What I don't get is the stress that I haven't learned and done it repeatedly.
And it's a very different type of stress.
It is. It's very stressful.
It's more emotional, obviously, and I think it's more intense.
Yes.
And it's something that you just can't say, oh, it will go away. It's one of those things.
Work stress is great. You go home at the hotel, you go back home, you travel, you get downtime. Home stress, what do? Go to opposite rooms? Like
No, I know exactly what you mean. What's something you notice about someone when you first meet them?
Well, if it's on Zoom, I really listen. I've learned, which I wish I had that skill a long time ago, to really listen, because nobody wants to do facial anymore. I used to be able to be really good at reading micro expressions. Like I was really trying to teach myself that skill. And then COVID hit. And I'm like, oh shit, this is really hard. So now I'm having to listen to the tone. Sometimes you can actually hear somebody smile when they talk. It sounds different.
Cool. And now my final question, Melissa.
Really?
Yes. What would you like to be remembered for?
Wow, that is a really good question. I've recently been asking myself something similar. Um, I don't know what it is yet, but I want to be known for someone who made a visible impact. And I think it's hard to figure that out because the world is changing so much more quickly than it was, just 15 years ago. So much more disruptions, positive and negative.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
I agree.
I think now, instead of looking at what I want to be known for, I think I'm going to have to look at how I set up my children for success, and that might end up being my legacy.
Well, Melissa Drew, you certainly made an impact on me, and I really enjoyed our conversation. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I loved it, and I wish you well and all the best with, recovering from your illness and cancer. And I have had such a great time, and you really were a breath of fresh air.
At one point, I was going to ask, God, where were you on the questions? Like,
don't worry,
this was
I'm monitoring that.
This was a great format. It was quite, it was quite original. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, and I really wish you the best of days.
Thanks.
Thank you.